Hollywood has gone through a couple of different eras, but perhaps none were more influential on society than the golden age, and stars in this time definitely took up whatever space they felt they deserved effortlessly. The golden age was a world filled with talents, beauty, ego, betrayal, and sometimes outright cruelty, and we had nasty stars who did as they pleased. These actors and actresses, despite their undeniable talent and fame, had a knack for making life difficult for those around them. In today's video, let's look at the nastiest stars in Hollywood's golden age. Clark Gable. In the 1930s, Clark Gable was one of the most popular male movie stars in America, a titan of the screen whose nickname, the King of Hollywood, was in no way exaggerated. Unlike many people whose well-defined personalities did not prevent them from playing a wide variety of characters, Gable was a one-character actor. The man who made hearts flutter as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind had a charisma that was undeniable. His square jaw, twinkling eyes, and that iconic mustache made him the epitome of Hollywood masculinity. But off-screen, the King of Hollywood had a reputation that was less than royal. In Hollywood, Gable was known for his womanizing ways, a trait that led to multiple marriages and numerous affairs. His relationship with Carole Lombard was desired by many, but underneath, the relationship had its rocky moments. Working with crew members and directors could also be tough for Gable. His lack of patience and ego was as big as his talent, and he wasn't afraid to let people know when he was displeased, which led to several on-set conflicts. For example, his relationship with director Victor Fleming during the filming of Gone with the Wind was not something to be proud of. Gable's temper was infamous, and it wasn't uncommon for him to storm off set if things didn't go his way. But despite his flaws, Gable had a magnetic allure that couldn't be ignored. He was a complicated man full of contradictions. He could be incredibly charming one moment and infuriating the next. Yet it was this complexity that made him human, and in a strange way, even more captivating. Joan Crawford. Crawford was a Hollywood icon known for her beauty, talent, and ambition, and whose career spanned decades from the silent era to the golden age of cinema. However, her legacy is also marred by the infamous portrayal of her as a cruel and abusive mother in the memoir, Mommy Dearest, written by her daughter, Christina Crawford. The book painted a disturbing picture of Crawford as a controlling, alcoholic mother who emotionally and physically abused her children. Christina's memoir was later adapted into a film starring Faye Dunaway, further cementing this negative image of Crawford in the public's mind. Scenes like the no-wire hangers that would be a normal thing to find in an average person's home are not accepted in Joan Crawford's home. However, Christina Crawford's account has been both supported and disputed. Some of Crawford's friends and colleagues like Cliff Robertson claim that Crawford had a Jekyll and Hyde personality, capable of both kindness and cruelty. Her adopted son, Christopher, corroborated Christina's accounts of abuse, while her twin daughters, Kathy and Cindy, defended their mother, stating they never experienced any mistreatment. The actress herself was a product of a difficult upbringing, born to a teenage mother and an absent father. She was sexually abused by her stepfather and worked menial jobs before making it in Hollywood, which has made some speculate that her own traumas may have influenced her parenting style. Despite the controversies, Crawford's contributions to film cannot be denied. She was a founding member of the Screen Actors Guild and was known for her philanthropic efforts, including donations to educational institutions and hospitals. In reality, could Joan Crawford really be the monster that Mommy Dearest portrayed her to be? Or was she a complex woman shaped by the highs and lows of an extraordinary life? Bette Davis. Davis was exceptional and often showed her talents through her strong independent roles and strong personality. Asides her talent, which was one of a kind, Davis was not without her flaws, and her reputation for being difficult to work with was well known in Hollywood. She had a penchant for speaking her mind, regardless of the consequences, and while many appreciated and celebrated her for being outspoken, she also had a number of enemies from this. At work, she was notorious for her feuds with studio executives, directors, and co-stars. Her longest and most famous feud was with Joan Crawford, her co-star in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The animosity between the two was so intense that it became the stuff of Hollywood legend. Her sharp tongue wasn't reserved for just her enemies. Even her friends and family were not immune. Davis was married 4 times, and each marriage ended in divorce, and her relationship with her daughter, Hyman was so strained that Hyman wrote a scathing memoir about her mother, describing Davis as controlling and emotionally abusive. On set, Davis displayed several characters that made her difficult to work with, like having specific demands about lighting and complaining if directors didn't meet her standards. During the filming of All About Eve, it was rumored that she had a contentious relationship with Anne Baxter and tried stealing her scene to remain the center of attention. Davis also had a reputation for being a career-first woman at the expense of her personal relationships. Her ambition led her to take roles that others turned down and to work with people she despised. Davis was a woman who defied barriers, but in doing so, she left a trail of broken relationships and bruised egos. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart was as tough off-screen as he was in his films. However, some people saw through this toughness and marked it as outright rudeness and a lack of consideration for others, which got him a lot of mixed reactions. He was known for his heavy drinking, a habit that often led to unpredictable and aggressive behavior. During a party at Frank Sinatra's house, a drunken Bogart reportedly became belligerent, insulting several guests and causing a scene which made Sinatra escort him out, damaging their friendship for a while. Bogart also had a knack for rocking his relationships, as he had a tumultuous relationship with his third wife, Mayo Method, which resulted in frequent public fights. On one occasion, Bogart even threw Method off a boat into the water during an argument, an act that was both dangerous and humiliating for her. During a press conference, Bogart chastised a reporter for asking what he considered to be a stupid question, causing an awkward tension in the room. His friends were also not immune to his abrasive behavior. Despite his close friendship with co-star Claude Rains, Bogart once publicly embarrassed him during a dinner party by making fun of Rains' English accent and theatrical mannerisms, leaving Rains visibly upset. During the filming of Key Largo, Bogart clashed with director John Huston over creative differences. Bogart was unhappy with Huston's ideas and direction, and he openly criticized him in front of the crew, undermining Huston's authority on his own set. He belittled anyone using his star powers. Judy Garland. The star of The Wizard of Oz is often remembered for her angelic voice and tragic life story. However, like many stars, Garland had moments where she was far from the darling the public adored and loved. Garland's life was a roller coaster of ups and downs, and during those lows, she was known to lash out at those around her. Her tumultuous relationship with her mother, Ethel Marion Gumm, was shaky, with Ethel pushing her daughter into the limelight at a young age. But Garland often blamed her mother for her own struggles with addiction and mental health, going so far as to publicly call her a monster anytime she got an opportunity to do so at interviews. While Ethel was far from perfect, Garland's public vilification of her added fuel to an already complicated relationship. On set, Garland could be very difficult. During the filming of A Star Is Born, Garland was frequently late, causing delays that cost the production thousands of dollars. Mentally, Garland got into a different place, and her behavior was often erratic due to her dependence on prescription medication, leading to mood swings that made her difficult to work with. She was known to snap at crew members and even threw a cup of coffee at director George Cukor in a fit of rage. Of course, her relationships also bore the brunts of her actions, as her marriages were fraught with tension. Garland's third husband, Sidney Luft, claimed that she tried to attack him with a kitchen knife during an argument, which showed a volatile side to Garland that the public rarely saw. Her relationship with her children also had its issues, as Lorna Luft, her daughter, wrote in her memoir that Garland could be emotionally manipulative. She would often pit her children against each other and against their fathers, using them as pawns in her own emotional games. Her darker tendencies also affected her friendships, as she had several falling out with close friends, including Frank Sinatra, whom she accused of exploiting her vulnerabilities for his own gain. Whether this was true or not, it showed a tendency to burn bridges and isolate those who cared for her. John Wayne. Wayne possessed a sense of moral clarity on screen, but off screen, he was not as admirable as the characters he portrayed. His public and private actions revealed a man who could be insensitive, prejudiced, and downright rude to anyone around him. One of the less than heroic behaviors Wayne portrayed was his stance on race and civil rights in a 1971 interview with Playboy magazine, where Wayne made a series of racially insensitive comments, including stating that he believed in white supremacy. These comments were not only shocking, but also revealed a deep-seated prejudice that was hard to reconcile with his public image. Wayne also had problematic relationships with his women. Despite being married 3 times, he was known to be a serial philanderer. His affairs were not just a breach of trust, but also a form of emotional manipulation, as he would often pit women against each other, reveling in the drama it caused. On set, Wayne was known for his authoritarian behavior, as he often clashed with directors and co-stars who did not share his political views or who questioned his authority. During the filming of The Green Beret, Wayne's strong support for the Vietnam War created tension on set. He was dismissive of anyone who opposed the war, labeling them as unpatriotic, and this extended to his interactions with crew members, some of whom were drafted to fight in Vietnam. His son, Ethan Wayne, revealed in interviews that while Wayne was a loving father, he was also a strict disciplinarian who did not tolerate dissent. This authoritarian approach to parenting led to strained relationships with his children, especially as they grew older and developed their own views. His friendships also experienced his abrasive behavior, as his friendship with actor Ward Bond ended abruptly when Bond expressed support for the civil rights movement. Wayne saw this as a betrayal and cut off all contact with Bond despite years of close friendship. Marlene Dietrich. Behind the set, Dietrich had a reputation for being difficult to work with and was known for her sharp tongue and dismissive attitude. One of the most talked about of Dietrich's life was her numerous affairs, both with men and women. She had affairs with anybody from co-stars to directors and even military officers during World War II, regardless of their marital status, which often led to broken homes and strained friendships. Dietrich was also known for her diva-like behavior on set. She was extremely particular about lighting and camera angles, clashing with directors and cinematographers to get her way. While some saw this as a sign of her commitment to her craft, others viewed it as egotistical and self-centered. She was known to be equally demanding in her personal relationships, often requiring extravagant gifts and constant attention. Her daughter, Maria Riva, wrote in her memoir that her mother was manipulative and controlling, often using emotional blackmail to get her way. In her later years, Dietrich became increasingly isolated. Her diva-like behavior had burned many bridges in Hollywood, and her waning popularity made her even more difficult to work with. She spent the last decade of her life in seclusion in Paris, rarely seen in public and refusing most interviews. Ava Gardner. Hollywood showcased Gardner in all of her beauty and grace on screen. However, behind the scenes, she had a reputation for being difficult to work with and had a penchant for stirring up drama in the most disgusting way. Her behavior made her to be undesired by a few who knew her, and her incidents with Frank Sinatra did not do either of them any good. While Sinatra was head over heels for Gardner, she seemed to relish the power she had over him. She was known to be openly flirtatious with other men just to get a rise out of Sinatra. This emotional manipulation took a toll on Sinatra, affecting both his personal life and career. Gardner was also notorious on set. She had a habit of showing up late, keeping entire productions waiting, and then acting as if nothing was wrong. Her lack of professionalism extended to crew members and fellow actors, as she was often rude to them. Gardner also loved to drink, but alcohol often raised an erratic behavior in her, as she was known to throw fits when things didn't go her way, and her mood could switch from charming to irate in a matter of seconds. This volatility made her unpredictable, adding stress to an already high-pressure environment. While Ava Gardner's on-screen presence captivated millions, those who knew her personally were often subjected to her less-than-stellar behavior. Her actions serve as a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful faces can hide the most complicated personalities. Vivien Leigh. In her days, Leigh was a force to be reckoned with on screen. However, off-screen she was often a challenging person to deal with. Her beauty and talent were undeniable, but they came with a side of arrogance and a sharp tongue that could cut a flesh without mercy. Leigh was intensely dedicated to her craft, but this often translated into a demanding and sometimes cruel demeanor on set. There were times she was notorious for insisting on multiple takes, even when everyone else was satisfied, pushing her fellow actors and crew to the brink of exhaustion. On numerous occasions, she had clashes with Laurence Olivier, who she was in a not-so-perfect relationship with, and got possessive and jealous, and often accused him of infidelity without basis. Her insecurities fueled many heated arguments between the couple, making their home life far from peaceful. Leigh also had a reputation for being snobbish and elitist. She often looked down on people she considered to be below her, whether in terms of social status or talent, and of course, this attitude didn't win her many friends in Hollywood. Cary Grant. While Grant dazzled audiences with his good looks and effortless charisma, his public persona was just too good to be true. But those who knew him personally would object to Grant being far from charming. Personally, Grant was known for his controlling behavior, especially in his romantic relationships. His marriage to actress Diane Cannon serves as a prime example. According to Cannon, Grant was emotionally abusive and tried to control every aspect of her life, from what she wore to who she talked to. His controlling behavior was so severe that it led to the end of their marriage and left emotional scars that took years to heal. His colleagues also didn't escape his difficult personality, as he was said to have demanded to be filmed from specific angles to showcase his good side, much to the annoyance of the crew and even director. Grant was also known for his frugality, which often bordered on stinginess. Despite being one of the highest-paid actors of his time, Grant was notorious for avoiding picking up checks at dinners, charging fans for autographs, which portrays him differently to characters he portrays on screen. Born of an English background, Grant prefers to hide a part of himself and goes to great lengths to distance himself from his background, including changing his accent and even his name. And he often gets hostile with those who demons him of his past. Grant's story serves as a cautionary tale that behind the most charming smiles can lie a host of insecurities and dark tendencies. Frank Sinatra. Sinatra was not just known for his velvety voice and charismatic stage presence. He was also infamous for his volatile temper and sometimes abrasive behavior towards those around him. Sinatra, the leader of the Rat Pack, was found to be sometimes controlling and would often berate members who didn't follow in the line that he went, straining several relationships in the group. His temper wasn't just reserved for his friends, it extended to his professional life, as he was known for clashing with directors, producers, and even fellow actors on set. During the filming of From Here to Eternity, it was said that Sinatra got into heated arguments with the director, Fred Zinnemann, demanding that scenes be shot his way, and this behavior made many studios hesitant to work with him despite his talent. One would think perhaps Frank would get it right at one aspect of his life, but his relationship with women just showed that there's really no two dimensions with this guy. Sinatra was married 4 times, and he had numerous affairs as well, with his marriage to Ava Gardner being the most explosive, marked with arguments and alleged infidelity on both sides. One time, Frank Sinatra found himself in an unexpected predicament that landed him behind bars when he was charged with seduction, a very serious allegation at the moral times of the 30s. He was caught sleeping with a married woman in the community. Sinatra was also allegedly tied to organized crime, with his relationship with key figures in the mafia propelling rumors of criminal activities he was involved in. While in public, Sinatra was known to lose his temper with fans and even journalists, with numerous accounts of him lashing out at people who he felt had crossed a line, whether it was a fan approaching him at an inopportune moment or a journalist asking a question he didn't like. Despite these flaws, Sinatra's legacy is marked by moments of awesomeness and brilliance, marred with instances of behavior that were less than admirable. If you like this video, do not forget to share and subscribe. Also, let us know in the comments who gets your votes as the nastiest star in Hollywood's golden age.